There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if you want.
1, 2, 3, set, go.
Hello and welcome to the Power Chord Hour podcast. How you doing out there? As always, I'm your host, Anthony Merchant, welcoming you to another episode of the show. And I gotta say, quite a late episode of the show. My apologies. I I just about always get these out on either a Sunday or Monday. I mean, they're very... just very beginning of the week. And I had this week's guest, which you'll hear the interview here in a second, but Scott Radinsky of Pulley, of former MLB relief pitcher, owned an amazing skateboard museum. Was in 10-foot pole there for a while. Has done a bunch of things, and an amazing man. But we were supposed to do an interview like a week or so ago, and we had to reschedule it, so we really didn't get to do this. This is being released. This should come out Saturday night, probably. Yeah, this should be out like Saturday night. And we recorded this Thursday evening. So, not terribly long ago. It did air on the radio show last night, which that normally doesn't happen. Normally, I just release the podcast before I air it on the radio show. But this week, a little different. So if you listen to the radio show, you got to hear it a little early yesterday. But I wanted to get it out because we will still have a guest. See, that's the thing. And look at how good, you don't even pay for this. This is some great entertainment that you don't even pay for. And I could have just held out, been really lazy, and just waited like a day or two and just went, this is next week's episode. But you know what? I'm not doing that. I'm going to release this as this week's episode because it's still Saturday and it's still whatever the hell week you want to call this. It's July 16th. But I'm still going to give you one on a Monday. And I'm looking forward to that one with Danny and David of the band No Win. They're a really, really good band. And if you listen to the radio show, I've been playing them. It's insane. And I already recorded this. I recorded it literally an hour after I did this here interview with Scott Radinsky that you're about to hear. I then got on StreamYard and chatted with half of the band. Or actually, really, they're a trio now. So really 2/3 of No Win. And Danny and David were both really, really rad. And it was insane, though. I was telling them because I feel like I just discovered them off their last record, Downey. But then I remembered it was 2019. Like, it's been a little while. And crazy to think that. But I've been playing them on the radio show since 2019, back in my Minneapolis days. So, it was really cool to get to talk to them. They were funny dudes and really cool. So that will be out also like Monday or something like that. But anyway, I'm going to shut up about that. I'm getting like way ahead of myself, and I always talk about how I hate long intros. But me and Scott just got right into this, so I thought I would jump on real quick because this goes right into the conversation. So I thought this sounded a little more natural than me just starting the show with an intro-less interview. But this is me with Scott Radinsky talking the golden life with the front man of Pulley right here on the Power Chord Hour podcast. As far as songs off the new record, assuming you guys played some off there, was that the first time you got to play some songs off this new album live? Was that kind of the introduction of those? Assuming you played Lou's songs live?
It was the first time. Yeah, we did. We played, I'd say, a good handful of songs live of the new ones. I don't know if they went over well. I don't know if anybody really knew what they were, but it was good for us to get on stage and play them, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, it's I feel like that's probably the way with everyone, where if you don't know the songs yet, because there are some good live ones on here. I think once people, probably one of those things, next time they see you, once they know the album a little more, it's like, oh, hell yeah. Now we're excited for those songs. Now we know them a little better.
Kind of how it goes with every record. You got to do it. You don't have a choice. You got to play the new songs, and at some point you got to try to win people over and hit them up again with them. And like I said, when you jam the songs and then record them, it feels good to play them live in front of people. And like I said, the reaction might not have been, they might have stood there and kind of said, well, what's this? But at least I know they sounded well. We performed them well. And hopefully we just keep doing that. Yeah. You got to bust out the new ones eventually.
It's interesting too, because for a band like Pulley, you've been around for 25 plus years now. You have quite a few albums to pick from. At this point in your career,
is the set list a difficult thing to put together? Because you have a lot to choose from. There's, on top of, like you said, you got to play the new songs, but you have a huge back catalog to like really compile that set list. I mean, is that ever difficult to like put one together?
We do have, you know, a good amount of songs to choose from, but I think over the years we've narrowed down what songs were good live, what songs weren't good live, and so we've kind of got that assortment to choose from. But for us, it's more of kind of switching up the order just to kind of make it interesting for us. You know, try to link certain songs together and kind of put together a little bit of a show. But yeah, I mean, most of the songs, unfortunately, we don't play live, and we really never did. They were kind of a one-time thing, and we rehearsed them, recorded them, and either tried to play them live and they just didn't go over well, they didn't sound well or something. But I guess we've narrowed it down over the years. So no, to answer your question in short, it's probably not that difficult to come up with a set. No.
You know, what's kind of interesting too, like you were saying that there's some, you know, some songs work really well live, some don't. Do you know that you have to play a song live to figure out if it'll translate live well, or is it something you can kind of tell even when you guys are in a rehearsal space just playing together? You go, okay, this is going to translate to a live audience, or is that something you can't know until you actually do it?
I think we attempt them. You know, like I know we try to mix in a few new songs every once in a while. So on every record, when we start playing on it, we try to incorporate a few new songs into the set, and you just get a feeling right away. What, you know, either us together on stage knowing musically it doesn't really sound that good, or, you know, after a few attempts, we just realized that the people wasn't hitting them right.
Wasn't going.
Yeah, I don't know how to. I really don't know what the right word is to say how we determine that, but yeah, we just start eliminating things and kind of narrow it down by response, I guess.
It's going from that. You know, like I was saying earlier, I feel like the album came out at a good time. I mean, it's just a great, like, I always like a summertime record, like just, you know, driving down the road, nice day, windows down, just listen to that album. I mean, it's a good one for that. I feel like Pulley, just in general, you guys are good at writing those kinds of records. I mean, was there any thought of that in releasing it now, like in the summer? Is that just coincidental that it comes out now and it's a good summertime record? I mean, is that a thought at all on your end?
It's totally coincidental of the timing of it and released. But there is a lot of thought that goes into writing happy music. A lot of thought goes into our covers, you know, and the whole package, you know, just bright colors and just kind of making it attractive, which I guess probably goes along with spring and summer, you know, because everything's blue and colorful and it's not dreary and gray. And but yeah, no, that it just, I guess we got the luck of the draw there with the timing of it and when it came out.
It's a great, and the album cover too. It's good to go. It kind of ties in with all of that. I feel like that album cover just it works. It works very well. You know, I mean, this is the band's first record since 2016. It's been a little while since No Change in the Weather came out. Like when did the thought of the Golden Life start? Like when did you guys start thinking of that follow-up? You know, like how far back was it, like, all right, maybe it's time for another one? When did that start coming into play for the band?
I guess it's just we've had some songs probably for a couple of years, but you know, once the whole lockdown started and guys were out of work, we had more time to put into it, and we started just writing by boredom. I don't think there was any intention we got to make a record. It was just we had free time, so that's kind of what we do. We did a live stream that the audio came out pretty good, and it actually ended up being a live record. So
nice.
We started working with this record label, Spam. I think that's kind of when things started going, was like, hey, do you think you'll ever write any new material down the road? And at the time, we probably had half a record's worth. And our reply was, yeah, I mean, we're kind of in the process of doing that. And they showed interest in wanting to put it out. So that kind of helped speed things up a little bit. We said, all right, we got a date, a recording date now, and we're going to go to the studio. And that's kind of how the process started. But I guess eventually we would have had enough material where we would have said, let's go in the studio and record it. But this kind of helped expedite that a little bit.
Yeah, that I would say the label kind of a nice little push from a label is not a bad thing for getting some new music out. Which as a fan, I
No.
appreciate that. I like the little pushing on their part. I'm happy they did that. You know, you're writing new songs for the Golden Life, but were there any songs that like maybe you guys started working on for No Change in the Weather that kind of ended up on this one that were maybe ideas you had on that last record that kind of came into this one at all?
I want to say that we might have revisited a couple of things that we did, but nothing made the record that we had done in the past. There were a few songs that we had been writing after No Change in the Weather that we thought would be towards the next record that didn't make it as well either. I think once we started writing, like I said, once we had time to go into our own practice space and jam on a regular basis, the stuff we wrote a year and a half, 2 years ago just we didn't feel was as good as what we were currently writing. So we just kind of kept rolling with it and just kept writing new stuff almost every session we had. And eventually in the end, it seemed like some of the more later songs were the ones we ended up using more than some of the stuff but we still have probably a handful of songs, I guess, in a vault that, who knows?
Like fully finished or ideas?
Finished songs.
Oh,
Yeah.
finished.
Songs recorded, finished, lyrics, backups, everything.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is there would you say there's like a general way that a Pulley song gets written? I mean, is there I don't know if you want to say formula, but I mean, is it just kind of normally you all get in the space and jam it out? Or like, is there a particular way that a Pulley song normally gets written, would you say?
Well, I think it's evolved over the years, and where we are currently at with it, the last couple of records, I play drums, and Mike, the guitar player, obviously plays guitar, and we seem to work well together in that formula where the initial very bare bones of it, where we start kind of structuring things, and we spend a lot of time trying to work around vocals. We used to write a lot of musical riffs in the past, and would try to almost write a complete song and say, "Oh, that's easy to sing over." And then I'd go back and I'd start trying to write stuff over it and be like, "Man, yeah, it sounds cool musically, but I don't know what I'm going to sing." So being part of that process with him and the fact that I can play drums a little bit, it kind of helps us be able to get through a song. And if we're not feeling something from the get-go, we don't waste our time with it. And it's really sped up the process and trimmed the fat a lot on wasting time. And at this point in our lives, with work and families and whatnot, it's not that it's like super valuable, but it helps to go in the studio with an idea and some sort of direction, and we just eliminate all the waste, because we could go in there and jam for 5 hours and really get nowhere. But like I said, when we're trying to structure things around vocals, I think it kind of helps the process. And myself and him, we've kind of seemed to work well together in that aspect the last couple records. That doesn't mean the other guys don't have input, but we just try to get a chunk of it done, so by the time we present it to the other guys, we kind of have some content there.
You have something there. That's
Yeah.
interesting, because I don't feel like all singers have that, where you can like having that drum side where you can go in there, because I see what you're saying. That makes sense. Being able to have both sides of that, it's good, because you can go in ahead of time and having that knowledge, you can kind of go, well, I still got to sing over this, which is probably not something the drummers think. If you're a drummer, you might not normally think of that. And then vice versa with the singer. So that's kind of nice. You have like both ends of that. Which one came first for you, drums or singing?
Well, I played drums early on, even in the very first incarnation of any band I was ever in. Did some stuff on Mystic Records, way back in the mid '80s. I actually played drums, and I think the first thing we ever did was a Nardcore compilation, and I actually played drums on it. And then our singer, when we were 15 at the time, our singer goes on vacation with his family, and the studio calls and says, "Hey, we need you to get down here and record vocals on these 2 tracks." Well, our singer's out of town. We don't have a singer. They said, "Well, someone needs to come down here and sing it." So I volunteered, and and that's kind of the way it worked. And then over the years, I learned how to play guitar, and I still trying to learn how to sing, but and I can somewhat keep a beat. So I have a little bit of musical background, but drums are definitely what started it off for me. Yeah.
That's really cool. I love how you just kind of fell into singing. I mean, had your singer been in town, we may not be doing this interview right now, or we would, but you're the drummer. We'd be talking all about drums right now. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, that's what happened 30 some odd years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for the Golden Life, I mean, where did you end up recording this? Where was the record recorded?
We recorded the drums locally here in Los Angeles area at a studio. Spent 2 days, just tracked the drums, and then the guy we worked with, excuse me, he lives in Las Vegas and has a really nice studio set up in his house, and basically just went there for a couple of weeks, and guitar players went and did their thing, bass player did his thing, and then I did my thing, and the record was done.
Wow. But I mean, because we were talking about it a second ago, like with the process and everything, it sounds like you go in there and you probably know the songs. Like you weren't going in studio and like writing half the record when you got there. It sounds like you kind of went in and already knew what everyone's parts and kind of things were going to be like once you got to studio.
Oh yeah. With just not just with rehearsals, but we all have our own little home studios, and every time we would rehearse these songs, we would record them, take them home for the week, and everybody would do their part and be able to jam on it and figure out what they want to do. And they were pretty well worked out. We don't waste time. No, that's valuable time and money, and we just want to get in and get it done.
Sorry, I just missed that. What's it called?
Pre-production.
Well, it kind of goes in because I was going to ask you that. Like, I'm always interested because you kind of get both, but like, are you not someone who enjoys like the hours and hours of being in a studio and tweaking things and trying to get like that perfect tone or that perfect thing? Or you just kind of, I think you just answered it, but I mean, just more of get your stuff done beforehand, get in there and get it recorded.
Well, the spontaneity that happens in the studio is going to happen to every band and every musician that ever records. It's always going to happen. Someone's going to throw an idea for you on the spot. That's a given. But do you want to spend hours or do you want to spend days? And unfortunately, we only can afford hours. So we know that that's going to happen. And there's always room for that growth when you're in the studio to make those tweaks. But to go spend, days and weeks of, trying to write songs and paste together, that's never been our style. No. I would say most punk bands will tell you that you get a certain amount of time from beginning to end and you got to get it in there. Maybe back in the day, Jethro Tull or some of those big bands will go rent a studio for 3-4 months and Motley Crue and do their thing, but that's never been our case. No, I wish that'd be fun, but no.
At the same time too, I feel like it might, I've also had this conversation where like, because some people do love that just spending, which again, you're right. If you can have the luxury of doing that, but like there is another part of it where it's like, would it be good? Would a Pulley album be good if you spent like, 7 months in it? You know what I mean? Like just reworking songs nonstop and just trying to like continue, you know what I mean? Like go so far away from your first idea. That's not always good for a band. Maybe it wouldn't be good if Pulley spent a lot of time on stuff.
My personal opinion is most of the time what comes out of your gut right off the bat is kind of usually what you end up going back to after you work out a ton of stuff anyway. That just seems to be the way it works for me. I know that usually like the first idea that I get, whether I'm writing a riff on guitar or a melody in my head for singing, I might try other things, but most of the time I'm going back to that original idea because your first instincts are a lot of times the best,
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and like you were saying too, it's like, it's getting this stuff done ahead of time. You're still kind of working on it, but you're ahead. You're spending hours, not days kind of thing. Like you were talking about earlier, which it's a big difference, hours versus days.
Going in the studio is nerve wracking for any band. It's like there's anxiety, there's excitement, and the more prepared you are, the easier and smoother it'll be because there's so many things, there's so many unexpected roads that open up when you're in the studio. Like, wow, I never really knew he played that, or I didn't know he played that kick pattern. And so when we record these things leading into the studio, going into the studio, and we have all this time to play back, and I sung these songs probably, couple hundred times before I ever had to do it again in the studio. So for me, it wasn't like I was doing it for the first time, which I've done before in the past. And it's difficult, you know, and then you listen back months later and you're like, damn, man, why'd I do that? And you're stuck with it forever. So having the time and luxury ahead of time, and like I said, with the advent of home studios now, anybody can do this, and there's no reason to not be prepared. But I don't know if being in a studio would make it a better record for, you know, months on end. I really don't.
You know, I know on the new record too, you know, you have your new drummer Sean and guitarist Trey, or at least new in the sense of I believe this is their first record with the band. How did both of them end up joining Pulley? How did that all kind of come about?
Well, Sean's been kind of a fill-in drummer for live shows dating back to, you know, probably 2012, 2013.
Oh, it's been a while.
Pretty good familiarity with him. And he just kind of came on board with time on his hands and the ability to be able to make the commitment. The other drummer we had in the past kind of had a heavy schedule, a new child. You know, he plays in another band as well that tours. He has a job. And it just, things didn't line up. So when it was time to kind of start coming up with a schedule, and we said, well, we need to have rehearsals, we need to have this recording time, it just wasn't going to jive, and it worked for Sean. And then with Trey, he replaced our former guitar player Jim, who after our last time of touring would have been, I guess, 2019. I guess 2019. He had some personal issues that kept him away for a while, and we needed Trey to fill in and do some shows, and it just kind of kept rolling with him. And he'd been a longtime friend for 30 plus years. So it just seemed like a natural fit for both guys, you know, being part of the family and having already known them and worked with them, it just made it easy for us.
That's kind of nice too, because I mean, even again, I mean, first record with the band, but they've been around so long. That's not like you're still getting it doesn't sound like you're getting accommodated with each other and stuff. You've played with each other for so long that I'm sure it's not like getting, you know, you're not getting acquainted with anything. You know, Sean's drumming, you know his guitar playing and stuff. You know,
as people as well, which is kind of huge for us. You know, for the limited time we do get to do things, we want it to be fun. I mean, it is a job, but it's not a job that we rely on to pay bills. So when we do go out and have the opportunity to play, we want it to sound good, number one, but we also want to kind of get along with the people we're with. So that's an important component as well. And it was a no brainer. They're an easy fit. So, and it's not to say that the people we've played with in the past, I don't think we have issues with anybody we've played with in the past. It was just the timing of everything and how it all kind of came to a head and what worked out this go around.
I mean, I think they both work well in the band. Again, I think the record sounds great. They seem to be a good fit. I mean, obviously, you know, we're talking about the recording of this one, you know, them being a two big, like, new things on it. But was there anything else, like, for recording the Golden Life that was, like, different, you would say, from a typical, like, Pulley recording session? Was there anything on this one that was either new or just something you don't normally do when recording?
I don't know if there was anything we wouldn't normally do while recording. Nothing that drastic. And you know, just I think this might probably be the first time that every guy in the band actually had his own home studio. So we would rehearse Friday, Saturdays, and we would go through, you know, in the beginning we had 2, 3, 4 songs, we'd record them. The next time we'd jam, we'd go through those 2, 3, 4 songs again, add another one. And every week we kept adding songs. So every week we kept recording and updating these fresh recordings. And, you know, Sean would work out his parts, Mike and Trey would work out their parts. And that's kind of how it evolved. And I think the ability to take it home with you for a week and work on it on your own and then bring it back and really know your parts was probably a big step for us in the whole process, you know, of recording and, you know, the pre-recording and the songwriting aspect of it, where, you know, like Trey might come with a riff, you know, from one week to the next, go, hey, I kind of came up with this riff over this part and it sounds amazing. But he had the ability at home to do that 100 times looping in his head, you know, which, like I said, in the past, I don't know if everybody had their own home studio, so it wasn't really like that. So that's probably the only biggest difference was the ability to work things out a little bit more on our own time rather than doing it all together at once.
Too, the other thing like I was talking earlier, the set list, just like, you've been a band for so long, you have such a big back catalog. Like when you're writing a Pulley record, just current day, I mean, it has to be an interesting thing, because do you go in writing a new record, comparing it to past work? You try to go in without, you know what I mean? Like, is there in your head when you're writing a record, is there a sound that you think a Pulley record has to sound like or should sound like, or do you not try to think about that stuff? Is it, you don't think of the back catalog, or we have to do it this way, or we have to sound that way? How is that this far into the band writing new music?
There's no conscious effort of saying, we have to be a certain direction. We have our musical tastes and I know my style of writing is different than Mike's. Trey added a few songs to this record, which was a nice different twist for us, but all kind of in that same vein. And being a fan of music and not to be, I don't want to solo myself out because I sing, but being a fan of all kinds of music, I always identify with vocals. And I think it's hard to kind of, regardless of the tempo of the song or the direction of the song, it's that same guy singing it. I think it's going to be identified with, a Pulley song. And, so, the styles that we have, we write fast melodic music. That's what we enjoy writing, and that's what comes out of us. So I guess that's why, from record to record to record, you'll see some sort of continuity, you'll hear the similarity, because it's our style. But it's not a conscious effort. It's just kind of who we are.
It just kind of comes out that way. I want to like kind of just talk about too, like your beginnings. We're talking like drumming and singing and stuff. What about punk rock? Like where does punk start for you? Where did you kind of find the genre? Where does that all come into play?
When I started junior high, or middle school, whatever they call it nowadays, it was 7th grade. I remember at lunchtime seeing these guys with Converse high tops and these homemade shirts that had a big DK on the back for the dead Kennedys. And they were like older guys. They were in 9th grade. I was in 7th grade. And I was pretty familiar with music. So I don't know exactly what year, but sometime in the early 80s. And I started kind of getting attracted towards that. And there was an abandoned swimming pool by my house at this former like a park type pool. And we drained it out, me and the kids in the street, and we were skating it. And once the word got out in our small town that there was this pool, all these guys started coming, and most of them were like, shaved heads and dyed hair. So that's kind of how I got, I knew it was kind of something, and I knew it was correlated with the scene that I was into, which was at the time was skating. So I guess I felt like, well, that's what I'm supposed to listen to. And they would bring, ghetto blasters with cassette tapes, and they'd be playing music. And some of the guys were pretty cool. And I'd ask them, who's this? What's that? And this is back in a time when, I didn't have money to go to a store and buy records, but people could make you tapes. There was no internet. There was no magazines. It was just all word of mouth by these guys that I went to school with. And that's kind of where it started for me. Between school and that abandoned pool where people were skating is my introduction to being exposed to punk rock.
So you were skateboarding before punk rock. You were skateboarding and then found punk?
Yeah, I had a skateboard when I was probably in 1st grade. So, I mean,
oh damn, you've been skateboarding like your whole life.
I mean, I putt around. I wouldn't define skateboarding,
Okay, I see what you're saying. The other thing too, I mean, like you said, you were into music before punk rock. Like what was your kind of scene? Like what were you listening to before you found punk? What would we find on those mixtapes, or what would you be listening to pre-punk rock?
When you're little, I think you're exposed to whatever your parents have. Flipping through the radio stations, I discovered FM radio. I heard some of that. There was a neighbor across the street from me who was an older kid, about 5-6 years older than me, and he turned me on to like Queen, Ted Nugent, Kiss. This would have been in like the mid to late 70s.
Oh, perfect time for all that.
And then yeah. And then I guess like, Sabbath and all that kind of, that vein of music just kind of came in fold with it all. And then I guess by the time the early 80s rolled around, it was, I was part of this, like, I found Rebellion, and that just was a perfect fit.
Nice, nice. I feel like the big three with you that people think, music, skateboarding, baseball. Where's baseball in all of that? Where does that all kind of start for you?
I mean, the same. I played baseball when I was younger, growing up, Little League and all that. And then when I got into like, those late junior high, early high school years, baseball was kind of probably third in line. And I don't know where, somewhere around 11th grade for me, I guess it would have been about 16, 17 years old. It just kind of started clicking where I changed positions. I became a pitcher, and I started having success for the first time, like real success in baseball. I wasn't just another guy on the team, but I was, man, I think I'm better than a lot of these guys as a pitcher. And I kind of started taking it seriously my senior year, and that's kind of when it really started taking off for me. And I really took it a little more seriously, and realized, man, I might be able to go to college, and then I found that I might have an opportunity to play pro ball, maybe out of high school. So that kind of really motivated me and bumped the enthusiasm quite a bit towards the commitment, to pushing myself in that area.
Now, I can't skateboard, I can't play baseball, but I was thinking about this, like, is there any overlap, would you say? Like, are there any skills from skateboarding that you feel like you can bring over to playing baseball or vice versa? I mean, I feel like from where I'm standing, they seem very different, but maybe there's not. Maybe there are certain, I don't know, skill sets or things you would do in where if you're good at this in skateboarding, it does bleed into baseball. Is there any of that, would you say?
Well, I've never really thought of it, to be honest with you. People normally ask, the music, baseball. They never really asked about skating. And my first thought is physically, there's really not a lot of comparison other than maybe the balance, that you would take. But, thinking about the mental side of it, skating's it's a solo type sport. And even though baseball is a team sport, being a pitcher, it's a solo job. And you're kind of by yourself. You're in control of your own, what you're doing. And it's similar to skateboarding. And there's a lot of failure in both, a lot of falling down, a lot of picking yourself back up. So I guess that would be a comparison right there is, kind of learning how to like get yourself back up off the mat, after being knocked down.
You're probably not great the first time around. That's probably, like, I remember, you're going to be bad for a while. It sounds like, until you're good.
It takes a while just to suck,
To even get you sucking, it's going to take a while to get to that. Oh man. As far as like, singing, skateboarding, baseball, that kind of stuff, like, what one would you say is the least unforgiving when not doing it for a while? Which one do you feel like when you kind of put it down for a minute and you go back to do it, what one can you really tell, oh, I'm a little rusty, or if you don't keep up on this, you kind of lose the agility on it? Is there one you lose it on more than the other, would you say?
I would say it's pretty equal across the board. They're both, if I hadn't thrown a baseball in a while and I picked the baseball up and tried throwing it, it would hurt. And I'd be sore and I probably wouldn't be very good. And, I know I can get on a skateboard and roll around, but if I try to like do any kind of transition or something and I fall, it's going to hurt. I'm going to be sore and I'm not going to be very good. So it's pretty comparable in that sense. If you put it down for a while and don't do it, I think they're both high risk.
Be careful. Make sure you stretch first before you do any of them, kind of thing. Also, like, I mean, you just do so much, and like, I was wondering this too, because again, you're known for many things. People know you, obviously, I mean, Pulley's how I know you. I love your music and everything, but you do so much and it's amazing. What about like time managing and juggling that stuff? Has that ever been an issue? Because you're not just a singer, you're not just a baseball player. You also, you had the skateboard museum, you had on top of a family and stuff. Like, you do a lot. Has that ever been an issue of juggling all these things? Was that hard to ever get the footing of doing all this? Or, I mean, have you just kind of all been able to always juggle that stuff and make everything like work on top of each other?
I mean, This probably sounds crazy, but I really don't do that much. And time management has been super easy because I've had a schedule. I'm going to work from this month to this month. I'm going to work. And that's what I do. And people who work and have families, well, you figure that out. You know how to exist and do both. And then when baseball season was over, well, it was time to have opportunity to do some stuff with the band. If I had 4 or 5 months off, it's not like we were touring for every day of that. We couple weeks here, come home for a month and a half, maybe go out for another week. It's not like 24/7 gone. I don't think it's really any different than any other person who works, goes to work, comes home, has a family, has kids, does whatever he does on the weekends. It's kind of like the time you spend when you are at home with your family is important, and what you put into it is important. And then when I'd go to work, I'd go to work, and when I'd go to band practice, I'd go to band practice. So it's really never been difficult for me at all because I feel like the schedule has kind of made it easy to deal with. It's not like I'm trying to juggle all these things at once. I only had certain times to do it. So it was easy to kind of just focus on one thing at a time. If that makes sense. Throwing a family in there, like I said, is no different than any other human being. So for me, anybody who's got a family knows how challenging that is, whether it be with a band or whether it be with, a regular job or whatnot. So, but I've been lucky. Like I said, I've been lucky, and it just seems like things have been laid out, and I've had these seasons that I deal with, if that makes sense.
No, it does, but it is interesting because, I mean, again, from an outside perspective, like you just look at everything you've done, it's like, that's a lot to juggle. Just being a singer in a band's a lot to juggle, but to like throw it all in. But it does make sense. And also, I never thought of the kind of the similarity in that way where I guess where you'd be every night if you're going on a 2-month tour. And also, you're going to be every night if you're like out for the season. Like, I guess there is that, it is kind of structured a little more than I may think of.
Totally structured. And whether I want to spend the night in Pittsburgh or Berlin, it's I know where I'm going to be, exactly like you said.
Nice. So, as we close this up, we have a great new Pulley record to listen to. Anything else we should be on the lookout for from the band this year?
As far as putting out music, I don't think so. But I know we have some good shows lined up, and still have Western Canada to do, a little bit of stuff in Europe, and some stuff here at home as well. Just appreciative of everybody who still follows it and listens to it and has good things to say about it, and hope that if you do get the opportunity, you can check it out and make your own opinion on what you think of the new music. But I know it was fun for us to write it. It was fun to record it, and it's really fun to like listen back to it. So I think we all hope it's the same for everyone.
No, I think what came out was great as a Pulley fan. I mean, it's what you know and love from the band, but it's not a rehash. It sounds fresh. Like it sounds like a Pulley record in 2022. But whenever you liked Pulley, no matter when you liked them, I think you're going to find something on the record that you like. So, I mean, props to that. It was a good one, not a stinker. It's a good record.
Thanks.
But as we close this out, where can we get the new record? Where can we find the band online? Where we stay connected with you? Like all that good stuff. Where do we now stay connected with Pulley and get the great new record?
Well, it's out on Spam Records. I know they have some distribution going on around the world, so I would start with Spam first and find out where it's in your individual region. Where it can be purchased if wanted to be purchased or downloaded or whatever. We have there's an Instagram at Pulley Matters, and there's also a Facebook Pulley Matters, I think it's called. But we update that pretty regularly, try to get something up there once or twice a week. And that's pretty much what we have. I don't think we have a website going anymore. That just seemed to be kind of obsolete. So we
not many bands have websites now. I feel like that like went away.
That and MySpace, yeah. Well, we got Facebook and Instagram, so that's where we're at. Yep.
We'll find. People can find you. You can find Pulley online. You can find that. You can find that record. It is. No, it has been really fun. Again, the new record's really good. If you're, we'll play a couple songs off it now. Ironically, if you're listening to the radio show, we have a shorter show tonight because we have a baseball game going on here in town. So our show's actually cut short 2.5 hours because of the baseball game. But anyway, but it was fun, and ironically, talking to Scott feels like a good one for that. But we've been talking to Scott Radinsky of Pulley right here on the Power Chord Hour.
Right here on the Power Chord Hour podcast off Pulley's latest record, The Golden Life. That was You'll Be Lonely Someday, and before that was Sad Song. I want to thank Scott Radinsky once again for doing that interview. That was very fun. I wish I knew more about like baseball and stuff because, there's so much you can talk to Scott about. I know Scott mainly from Pulley, but you almost can't talk about him without bringing up, which is an amazing thing, being an MLB relief pitcher. That is insane. That is really cool. And, if I knew more about sports, I probably would have went down that road more. But, as you could probably tell, my baseball questions, well, I did want to ask a few fairly vague, kind of general baseball questions. I just don't know enough about the sport. But I do know a thing or two about Pulley, and I know they just wrote a really, really good record. So go grab The Golden Life. It is a excellent album. I would love to go see them live. I've never, I kind of got into them. I know they kind of do things on and off and here and there. They're an active band, but they're not like a, release a record every 2 years, go tour constantly kind of band. But I kind of randomly got into them probably like 2014. I want to say like somewhere there. So, in the grand scheme of things, for as long as they've been around, I've been a fan for not a very long time. But, I love everything they've done. But I think this new one is just excellent. But yeah, like I was saying, though, I've never seen them live. And I think I kind of got into them around a time. I don't know that they were particularly playing a lot, or actually if they were playing at all. I know it was before the 2016 record. And, but they seem like a band who would be amazing live. Like just the energy of those songs. It's almost like that band, without even trying, would probably just be an amazing show. So, if Pulley is coming to your town this year, and there's a chance it's going to happen, it sounds like, he didn't announce anything, but sounds like it could happen. So go see them, because that's going to be a good time. But that is going to be the show for this week. Like I said, I'll be back in like a day or two with my interview with Danny and David of the band No Win. They got a new record called Dodger Stadium coming out in just a few weeks. So we'll play a few songs off that, get you ready for that album. And I'm really looking forward to it. And that's going to be like I said, the interview's already done, and it was a really fun interview. And they wrote, I don't know. Again, I won't get too ahead of myself. You'll hear it in a couple days. But I really like their last record, Downey, which was really their debut record. But this one, and you can go listen before this interview, because they do have it's the greatest title. It's called the Enhanced CD EP, and that's been out for a couple months, and that has 3 songs that are on the new record coming out. And it literally sounds like the year 2001. And I mean that in the best way possible. Like in the best way. I mean that as a huge compliment. It sounds like the year 2001. And that's exactly what they were going for. And we talk all about that. But I would definitely say go listen to it. But I loved what they did on the first record, but I think they outdid themselves on this one. It's going to be a good time. So check that out in just a couple days. Follow us online at Power Chord Hour on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Go subscribe to our YouTube page if you would. That'd be rad of you. What else? Wherever you're listening to this, please rate, review, and subscribe. That helps a lot. If you want to listen to the radio show, we got new ones every Friday night, 8 to midnight Eastern on 107.9 WRFA in Jamestown, New York. If you are not here in Jamestown, you can still listen. Just go to WRFALP.com/streaming. You can listen there worldwide. And, what else? powerchordhour@gmail.com. You want to hit me up there for anything. I do have free Power Chord Hour stickers. Would love to send you some. You can hit me up there, powerchordhour@gmail.com. And, always kind of looking for show sponsors. So hit me up there as well. If you got something you're trying to sponsor, I work cheap. And, yeah. So I don't know. I guess that is it. Check back in a couple days for the No Win interview. And until then, for the Power Chord Hour podcast, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.